What makes for the perfect road trip? Amazing scenery? Of course. Regional delicacies to try along the way? For sure. A cute companion? Excellent bonus, especially if it's the canine variety. But one of the most important factors is possibly the least discussed: auto safety and preparedness. So on today's episode, we're talking about all of the above, including those cute companions. Here to share their insights are two experts from AAA the Auto Club Group, Jessica Brady, Director of Travel Innovation and Business Development, and Steve Robinson, Car Care Automotive Trainer. Jess and Steve, welcome to Well Traveled with AAA.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here, Abby.
Well, I'm really happy to have you both. So, Jess, we're going to be using your own recent adventures and lessons learned from the road as we talk our way through this topic. So let's start from the beginning. You and your husband knew that you wanted to road trip with your dog Daisy through some of the nation's most beautiful and remote regions. Could you give our listeners a quick overview of the itinerary and go ahead and make us all jealous?
I certainly can, yes. So for years, my husband James and I wanted to take a long road trip out west. And of course, we wanted to bring along our bulldog Daisy. We have family in Colorado, so that was our final destination before we were going to head back home to Tampa, Florida. So that said, we wanted to take our time, enjoy the open road, and travel as many scenic byways as possible to soak in literally everything we could. So we gave ourselves about 2.5 weeks. We stayed at 8 hotels and resorts, 6 of which were Hiltons, and they were recommended by AAA. And I will say I did save about 10% at each of those hotels using my AAA membership, which helped offset the pet fees that we had to pay. And each day we drove hundreds of miles and we watched the scenery change from the swamplands of Mississippi to the windmill fields through Texas, all the way to Amarillo. From there, we stopped at the Painted Desert and Petrified Forest as we made our way to the lush forest of Oak Creek Canyon and into the Red Rocks of Sedona, where we stayed a couple of nights. And then from there, we made our way to the Grand Canyon for an overnight, then visited Monument Valley, which, by the way, is absolutely majestic, where we traveled to the Moab Desert. And finally, we got to Paonia, Colorado, where we unknowingly ended up camping in Grand Mesa National Forest for 3 nights, visited family, and then made our way back home through Albuquerque, Amarillo, Texarkana, Mobile, and finally Tampa.
From the standpoint of automotive and human and dog safety on such an epic journey, Jess, what kind of preparedness checklist were you working with? Where do you even begin?
There is so much to plan when doing a road trip like this. And we spent several months preparing for what we called our epic road trip journey. And while I handled most of the logistics from the route we were going to take and where we were going to stay, James was responsible for ensuring our truck was road ready and that we had literally like every gadget and gizmo needed to be safe and comfortable. So I should say that James is a firefighter, so being prepared is in his DNA. It is. He brought everything from fix a flat and a jack to change tires, an automatic air pump, a battery jumper, distilled water, which I really still don't know what that was for. So Steve, maybe you can help with that one. Multiple tools, and he even built Daisy a platform that fit between the gap of the back seat and the front so she wouldn't accidentally fall through. And needless to say, the truck was not only road ready, but Daisy had a pretty sweet pad in the back seat.
It sounds like it. So Steve, as not only an automotive safety expert, but also a dog lover yourself, do you want to chime in here? Could you weigh in on how Jess and her husband did and let our listeners know how else we should all be thinking about preparing for major road trips?
Sure, absolutely, Abby. I'd love to. Yeah, Jess, it sounds like you, James, and your dog Daisy were certainly in the very top 10% of those getting ready for road travel. So I don't have much to add. But anytime that you are preparing for a road trip, there are certain things you always do want to carry with you. Some of the more basic things, you want to make sure that you keep an extra bottle of washer fluid handy in case you do run into inclement weather. We're in the summer season, so hopefully not too much frost or snow, but certainly lots of bugs. It's always good to have road flares or reflective triangles, plenty of water to drink along with a first aid kit. Jess, I know you already mentioned the spare tire and the can of Fix-A-Flat and the jack. Also good to have a cooler and snacks, especially on these long road trips. Want to make sure that you do have a phone charger. It's very, very important that your phone is always fully charged in the event of emergency. You mentioned the battery pack, the jump pack. It'd also be good if you have room and you have some mechanical inclination just to keep a very basic tool set with you. And of course, traveling with our furry four-legged friends, we want to make sure we have plenty of food and water for them, a bowl, leash, poop bags, a bed, and a harness, because they do need to use the restrooms as well.
Whether you're setting out to discover America or heading home to share moments with family, AAA is here to make your journey smoother, more exciting, and easier on your wallet. As a AAA member, you'll love the digital tools like toolbooks and triptychs, your trusty sidekicks for planning epic stops and scenic detours. And don't forget those exclusive member discounts on hotels, dining, and attractions along the way. So what are you waiting for? Visit AAA.com/travel and get road trip ready. Jess, how did you prepare for those remote stretches where there wouldn't be much hope or any hope of connectivity?
Sure. Well, first we use the tried and true AAA triptych planner to plan our route. And I looked into several of the top different road trip design websites and tools, and the AAA triptych really was the best in class. And I'm not just saying that because I am a AAA fan. But there were two really useful features. One was the ability to set how long you wanted each leg of your trip to be. So say 10 or 11 hours. And then the triptych would mark where you should stop along that journey. The second one was the ability to easily drag and drop parts of the itinerary to go around cities. This was useful if you wanted to take more scenic routes. For example, we wanted to go around Dallas. And it resulted in a serendipitous moment of us traveling through Quinnon, Texas, which is named after Quinnon Parker, who was the last Comanche Indian chief who James and I had actually both just finished reading about in a book called Empire of the Summer Moon, which, side note, a very poignant and fascinating book, right? But to answer about the cell service piece, when you're taking these scenic byways or these back roads or simply just driving along these stretches of road in the middle of nowhere, there is no cell service and the hotspots don't work. So having that printed paper triptych was incredibly useful. And it even added some nostalgia to the experience because we were able to manually navigate our way through those dead spots with the triptych and then pick right back up using your typical GPS navigation.
Oh, great. So let's get into the fun part of the road trip, starting with some of the most gorgeous stretches of scenery that you saw. And again, feel free to just make us all jealous with some of your favorite moments of just jaw-dropping natural beauty.
Oh, man. So do we have 4 hours for this podcast?
I wish.
Because there's a lot to share. There truly were so many beautiful stretches of scenery. One of my favorite things to do, especially when we were heading west, was to turn around and watch the sunrise from the rear window. Each morning, it was a different landscape and a kaleidoscope of colors along a new horizon. Driving into Arizona was beautiful, as was our drive from Sedona to the Grand Canyon. To see the sunrise from the Red Rocks is absolutely stunning, especially when you couple it with a sunrise playlist that includes some great artists like The Doors, Leon Bridges, or Shakey Graves. So that really adds to that ambiance.
Nice.
Yes. And one of the most memorable drives was the $1 Million Highway. And a friend of mine who I shared, I was going on this road trip with, she recommended and said, you have to travel the $1 Million Highway. I had never heard of this. And upon researching it, I learned that basically it's southwest of Colorado, and it consists of about 25 miles of the San Juan Scenic Byway. And I will tell you, it is as treacherous as it is beautiful. And there's a couple different opinions out there as to why it's named the $1 Million Highway. Some things you'll find say it cost $1 million to make each stretch of the road, all the way to it's because the views are $1 million views. So I was so excited to ride along the $1 Million Highway. That operative word there is ride. Well, that night or morning, we left about 3:30, 4 a.m., and my husband was too tired to drive safely. So here I was on the dark roads of Colorado, and there are like no lights in Paonia or where we were at, in a big truck with my dog and husband passed out cold. So I found myself white knuckling the twists, the turns. And when I say twist, I mean like hairpin turns. There are no guardrails. The highway goes up to 11,000 feet above sea level. So I was scared. And I should note that I don't like ledges, period. But I was also psyching myself up because here I was having this amazing experience and doing something I was totally scared to do, but I had no choice, right? Yeah. And I must have driven between 15 to 30 miles per hour the whole time because I wanted to soak in everything and not drive off the cliff. Right. But little did I know the most magical view was to come. There was this short hairpin turn, and when I came around the sharp curve, it was a steep drop off of the driver's side. And when I looked out the driver's side window, there was this giant snow-capped mountain that was literally glowing from the moonlight. It was so big, and it seemed so close. I swear you could touch it. And I've never seen anything glisten and shine quite like that mountaintop. And the optics set it perfectly at eye level. So it was definitely $1 million view. And it was definitely one I will never forget.
Oh, it sounds incredibly dreamy. And Steve, from a safety standpoint, what kinds of precautions should we be taking on stretches like that, where there are hairpin turns and steep drops? What are your best tips?
Yeah, so it sounds like Jess did a great balancing act there. It's very difficult, because your intention is you want to take in all this beautiful scenery around you. But if you are a driver, you do want to make sure you're not a distracted driver. Keep plenty of room in front of you before the next vehicle. I understand you do want to take in all this beautiful scenery. Might be good to just pull off to the side of the road, take some pictures. The other thing is, especially important when driving around dawn or dusk, is probably most underrated thing is a good pair of sunglasses. Man, I tell you, you can get a nasty glare driving if you're facing the sun as it's raising or lowering. But specifically regarding around these hairpin turns, you certainly want to drive slow, drive with intention. You'd like to make sure that your tires and your brakes and suspension are all in top-notch performance. The other thing is when driving down a mountain, instead of riding your brakes all the way down, it's best practice to actually take it out of overdrive. That way you're using some engine braking, and then just pump the brakes when you do need to slow down. This will help prevent your rotors from overheating, and then once you're down on flat land, you won't have that nasty brake pulsation.
Looking for the perfect place to stay on your next getaway? AAA members save 10% or more on hotels with exclusive rates. Plus, you'll still earn your favorite hotel loyalty points. Book with top partners like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, and Choice Hotels. Whether you're looking for a cozy budget spot, a luxe resort, or a place that welcomes your furry friends, AAA is the place to start planning your road trip. For more information, visit AAA.com/hotels. Of course, one of the major destinations that all that driving led you to, Jess, was the Grand Canyon, a road trip bucket list destination if ever there was one. Could you share your experiences there with our listeners, and especially those who may also be considering going with their dogs?
Absolutely, yes. The beauty of the Grand Canyon is almost indescribable. I mean, from sunrise to sunset, the colors, they change from like gray to purple to pink to blue and red. I mean, it really is like nothing else in the world. First, I highly recommend staying inside the park itself. This allows for more time to explore and the ability to find the perfect spot for the sunrise. And if you can't tell already, I am a huge sunrise fan. I think I've said that word 20 times. Also, you can go to the little market that is in Grand Canyon Park, and you can talk with the park employees. And they are incredibly happy to share their favorite spots for stargazing or exploring, hiking. And side note, they do carry beers from Grand Canyon Brewing Company. And the American Pilsner is not only delicious and refreshing, but it comes in a really cool can that makes for a neat keepsake. So you can only get that if you're inside the park. And because we had Daisy, we could not hike into the canyon. Dogs are not allowed. It gets far too hot for them. So what we ended up doing during the day was walking the south rim. And mind you, it's incredibly hot. So we had to ensure Daisy was comfortable, she could handle the heat, and we didn't want her to burn her paws. So we did what any pet lover would do, and we set her up in a wagon. It was comical. We put her in a wagon with a bowl of water, and we walked along the south rim, carrying an umbrella to ensure she had shade. Yes, we are those people. And funny enough, I swear, I think people were taking as many photos of Daisy as they were the Grand Canyon. And she was just...
no doubt. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, she was just smiling the whole time. So it was super fun. But you really do need to be mindful of the heat with dogs, especially.
Yeah. Well, and Steve, it's not just our pets that require special consideration when we're road tripping through that kind of heat and those remote stretches. What kinds of extra precautions should we be taking from an automotive safety standpoint?
Yeah, so as you suggest, it's not just Daisy that needs to remain comfortable while in that truck. We all want to remain comfortable. So it's always a good idea when taking a summer road trip, make sure that your air conditioning is blowing nice and cool. Keep yourself and your family and friends and your loved ones nice and cool. Jess, you mentioned that your husband wanted to keep the distilled water with you. Mm-hmm. So that distilled water is actually used in case of if you were low on coolant, it's better to use distilled water than tap water. So I'm guessing that's what he was shooting for there.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you're driving from a cold climate to a hot climate, your tire pressures will increase. It's I would say about 1 to 2 pounds per 10 degrees. So if you did drive from the snow-capped mountains into the desert, you may need to check your tire pressures and relieve some of that tire pressure air.
Are you enjoying Well Traveled with AAA? Subscribe to this podcast today and share your thoughts on ratings and reviews. You can't have a proper road trip conversation without food. What were some of your most memorable roadside meals and snacks, Jess?
So we brought a ton of snacks, I will say that. But finding food was an adventure in and of itself. First, of course, it was all about Daisy, right? Where can we take Daisy? Will there be shade? We enjoyed several roadside barbecue spots. Another bonus of taking back roads and byways, you find just little mom and pop restaurants that locals go to. And I pretty much got the same thing at each stop because it was delicious, and that was the pulled pork. It was literally finger-licking delicious, meaning Daisy, she licked my fingers. I could not let her, right? But there was one place that stood out, and that was Big B's Apple Orchard in Paonia, Colorado. What a cool spot. Not only were they pet-friendly with excellent and moderately priced barbecue, but it was a really neat apple orchard, and you could walk through it with cliff swings and live music. We're not cider fans, but the ciders there were absolutely delicious. And then, of course, there's local bakeries and pastries that you just drive upon where you can get fresh cookies or handheld cherry pies with warm filling, which, by the way, make for a great roadside breakfast with coffee. Yeah. And I will say kind of as Steve, as you're talking more about the car heating and cooling, one thing I did notice, and I said to James many times, I was like, why are you not shutting off the truck, right? When we would get out and go grab a bite to eat. And I always thought it was because he wanted to quickly get back on the road, despite his reassurance he was not in a rush. But I ended up learning, I guess it's better for the truck, apparently not to shut it off. So either way, I will say barbecue, pastries, milkshakes are super delicious, both on the roadside and or in a truck that doesn't get shut off.
Well, Steve, how would you weigh in on that conversation? Should you be leaving your car on for a bit when you stop for food, or a leg stretch? Are you supposed to turn it off right away? What's best practice there?
No, so James is absolutely doing the correct thing for the vehicle. 99% of us are guilty of it. I am myself, of immediately wanting to get out of the car and turning it off. But it is always best to, anytime you're starting the vehicle or turning off the vehicle, it's good to start the vehicle a couple minutes before you're actually going to go put it in drive to get everything warmed up and the fluids moving. And then after a long road trip, you have all this heat sink. All this heat has built up in the vehicle. So by pulling over and allowing the vehicle to, just idle for about 5 minutes before turning it off, it allows all that temperature to equalize, all your pressures to equalize. And this is most important on a lot of newer vehicles are actually equipped with turbos, and those turbos are oil cooled. So you definitely want that nice, cool oil flowing through that turbo before you cut off that engine and bake that turbo.
This is just fascinating. Jess, besides the amazing food and landscapes, what other roadside attractions were you stopping for? Was there any of that classic roadside kitsch that you spotted along the way?
There was so much of it, actually. We did stop at various places along the old Route 66. My favorite was Cadillac Ranch, which is outside of Amarillo, Texas. And that's where there are several half-buried vehicles, all graffitied. So that makes for a neat stop. And you can actually pull well off the side of the road. It is a whole roadside attraction that you can go see. And then the Flintstones Bedrock City is a must-see if you grew up watching the Flintstones like I did. I just loved it. But then it's just really cheesy stops along the way. I mean, there's so much randomness, actually, but everything was funky and fun. And it's really whatever interests you. I mean, I got pictures of just about every state sign. Welcome to Utah. Welcome to Arizona. Yeah. So you could certainly make a scavenger hunt out of a road trip like this and have some fun with the family.
Totally. And let's turn to another roadside staple. What kind of car games were you playing along the way to pass the time?
For us, it was really all about music. It was how many states did we travel through, the number of miles we drove each day. We would do an over-under bet just to see. And the one thing we did do was we tried to find license plates from all 50 states. And we actually got to 42 states, believe it or not.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, one of which was from Hawaii, which we questioned. Then it dawned on me that it might be a rental car. Nonetheless, though, it did count towards our list. So yeah, we got 42 out of 50 states in our one road trip.
And how did you know that it was a rental car?
Well, I will lie. I saw the little Hertz sticker on it, so I gave it away.
Got it. Well, that actually raises an interesting question, probably for Steve. Should people be road tripping in rental cars?
It's never a bad idea to use a rental car. All rental cars are typically within 1 or 2 years old and under 60,000 miles, so relatively good condition. If you're not taking a rental car, certainly get your vehicle checked out before a road trip. But I use Hertz all the time for my business, and we do save, I believe it's 10% being a AAA member. Booking through Hertz. One thing that might be good to know about is if you're driving a rental car and you don't know what side of the vehicle you need to fill up with gas. If you actually look at your gas gauge, you have the little emblem or symbol of the pump. Next to that pump, there's an arrow that's pointing left or right, and that's going to be the side that you want to fill up on.
That is really one of the most valuable tips I've heard in a really, really long time. I did not know that. Getting ready for your next road trip? Make sure your car is too. Before you set off, visit a AAA-owned car care location or AAA-approved auto repair facility. Our trusted technicians provide reliable service and exclusive benefits just for members, like discounted labor, a free multi-point vehicle inspection with any paid service, and more. Find a location near you and hit the road with confidence. Learn more at AAA.com/AAA car repair. Jess, as you look back now on the whole road trip, are you left with any moments that really moved you or just struck a particular chord?
Yes, I mean, there were several memorable moments. I would say the immense history of traveling west from going through the old Route 66 into Navajo Nation, and the experience of going through Quinnon, Texas. Again, the book Empire of the Summer Moon was really impactful to us. It's about the early settlers of the United States and the experiences of the Native Americans over that 42-year span. So Quinnon Parker, as I mentioned, was the last Comanche chief who ended up integrating with the settlers and working for the government as an advocate for Native Americans. So for us to unexpectedly drive through there and be able to stop and again see that book come to life was really impactful. And driving through the Indian territories and reservations, it was just very humbling overall. And then just being with James and Daisy with no pressure, no stress, just traveling on the open road, our way, our time. Was priceless. And it may be cliche, but there truly is a feeling of freedom when you're traveling through some of America's most beautiful places. I mean, I just loved every minute of it.
Steve, so is there anything else that we should be thinking about before, during, or even after a major road trip to make sure that we are safe and secure on the road?
Absolutely. So if you're not taking that rental car, you do, of course, want to make sure that your vehicle is in tip-top condition before traveling cross-country. So there's things that both you yourself can do as a DIYer. There's also things that you'd want to bring it into a facility to have them check out. So, the very simple things that everyone can do is check the condition of your wiper blades. You certainly don't want to be caught up in a storm, and that's when you realize that they don't work very well. Check your tire pressures. Now, a lot of people don't know the proper way to check your tire pressures. So you do not want to go by the pressure that's actually listed on the side of the tire. That's going to be your maximum tire pressure. So the tire pressure for your vehicle, if you open up the driver's side door, you're going to see a little placard. It's going to have 2 sets of tire pressures, one for the front, one for the rear. And that is what you want to set your tires to. And that's best done if your tires are cold. Make sure you have plenty of washer fluid. You can check your oil. That's pretty straightforward. Make sure you have plenty of gas. Now, here's something else to think about on a cross-country road trip is you never know when you might run out of gas. So if you're at a quarter tank and you're at a gas station, you don't want to risk, I'll fill up at the next one, because there might not be a next one for 100 miles. So good idea would be to fill up at every gas station when you're below half a tank. That way you're sure to never run out. Or if you're driving an EV vehicle, you certainly want to take extra precaution in planning out your trip. Make sure that you have the ability to reach all the charging stations you need to get to.
That's a really good point.
Other than that, you could bring it to any of our AAA car care centers or approved repair centers where we'll do free pre-travel trip inspections. So if you bring it to us, what we're going to do, we're going to look at things like your lights, wipers, horn, check the condition of your battery and all your fluids, your tires, your brakes, your suspension. We'll also do complimentary brake inspections and complimentary alignment checks per request.
Well, I think that leads us really nicely into our final question, and this one is for both of you. What does well-traveled mean to you? Jess, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Being well-traveled means a couple things to me. It means being keenly aware of your surroundings, yet knowing that you truly have no idea what's going on around you because the world is so layered. And secondly, it's knowing that no matter how much you plan, research, or prepare, everything you don't expect to happen is likely to occur. And oftentimes those end up being the most memorable moments that you'll have.
Absolutely. How about you, Steve? What does well-traveled mean to you?
So to me, well-traveled means if you're sitting around talking with family and friends and someone happens to mention a city, state, country, you can knowledgeably talk to them about different places to eat, different things to go see, or that very special insider knowledge, that hole in the wall that no one else knows about. But as I'm sure you can tell, I need much more traveling to be that well-traveled.
Aw. Well, thank you both so much for this really fascinating conversation. And I wish everybody really happy and safe road trips this summer.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You can find all of our interviews with other travel experts from around the world on the Well Traveled with AAA feed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We hope you'll rate us or leave a comment and let us know what you think.
I'm Abby Kozolczyk. Thanks for listening.